this presentation right away. Once more, I love to greet every one of you who has joined, and I want to greet Ground Zero especially. Thank you all for your resilience on Ground Zero. Thank you all for believing in this interim government to deliver this revolution, to deliver Boya into our hands. We will not renege. We will persevere. We will stand until we get to Boya. Thank you very much. Fellow Ambazonians, accept revolutionary greetings from your interim government. Events over the past few days have obliged your interim government to come out with a statement and provide some clarity with regard to the interim government constitution of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia. In the course of the week, you must have noticed a document circulating, purported to have been released on the 18th of March 2019 by a certain constitutional draft committee of the Fourth Conclave titled, and I quote, "On the question of the Southern Cameroon's Ambazonia Interim Government Constitution," end of quote, and calling on the public to make constitutional contributions to the said committee towards amending the interim government constitution of Ambazonia so as to complete the process outlined, they say, by Resolution 27 of the Fourth Conclave. The committee further stated that, and I quote, "It has received a number of comments and propositions for the modifications on the draft constitution before the process was stalled by the NERA adoptions and subsequent events," end of quote. The committee goes on to claim that the acting president, Dr. Sako, failed to complete the process of amendment, which would have been effected only by that committee, and thereafter submit the constitution for certification following due process. The interim government of the people of Ambazonia, having taken notice of the said document from the Constitutional Draft Committee, hereby makes the following clarifications on the situation. We note that way before the Fourth Conclave, an enlarged constitutional drafting committee was created by President Sisiko with many other members, including the signatories of the said document in circulation. During the Fourth Conclave, this committee was called upon to accelerate the drafting of a constitution for the Federal Republic of Ambazonia. The constitution was effectively drafted and presented in November of 2017 to President Sisiko for adoption, subsequent promulgation, and certification before the NERA abduction took place on the 5th of January 2018. It is absolutely important to note here that by tabling the draft constitution to President Sisiko in November of 2017, the duties and mandate of the said draft committee ended forthwith. In other words, that committee became factus officio. It is even more important to note that the interim draft constitution was tabled before the Restoration Council by President Sisiko before the Naira abductions. The interim government draft constitution remained pending before that house, the Restoration Council, for about 3 months before debate and adoption by the Council in April 2018. When the acting president, Dr. Sako, took office in February 2018, the interim draft constitution was already pending before the Restoration Council, and the acting president waited for further 3 months before promulgation and certification in the month of June 2018, in a public ceremony wherein all constituted parties to the ceremony, with all legal procedures and due processes in place, were respected. It is strange to hear, therefore, that a committee that claimed to have received a number of comments and propositions for the modifications on the draft constitution before the Naira abduction of President Sisiko failed to effect the said modifications during a period of about 7 months before the promulgation of the interim constitution by the acting president, and they did not raise an objection nor complaint when the constitution was adopted by the Restoration Council. It is again strange that for more than a year following the promulgation and certification of the interim constitution, that committee did not raise a single objection or complaint till now that it has suddenly re-emerged with a lame and weak argument attempting to change or challenge the legality of a document they relied on when it was favorable to them. It is not long when they relied on the validity of the interim constitution to blame the Judicial Council of this government for wrongfully interpreting the interim constitution a few weeks back. Ladies and gentlemen, today they are now contesting the validity of the same constitution which they relied on in the past. With the foregoing, the interim government wishes to inform the public that the document published by the Constitutional Draft Committee calling for the public to contribute ideas towards the drafting of a new constitution is not only a distraction, it is a futile attempt to create confusion and mislead our people at this crucial moment of our revolution, when the esteem for the ASSC, the Ambazonia Strategic Stakeholder Conference, is gathering a lot of momentum. Having brought the above clarifications, your interim government further informs every Ambazonian that the signatories to the said document in circulation have not received any mandate from your interim government to draft or effect any amendment on the interim constitution of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia. We are therefore urging the public to disregard the document and hold the Constitutional Draft Committee, and to focus on the constitutional reform that will be done at the ASSC in Berlin. The interim government informs everyone that the Constitution is a fundamental law guiding the action of your government under the leadership of the acting president, who, amidst calls from the public for restructuring the interim government, has already instructed the creation of a constitutional reform committee for the upcoming ASSC conference in Berlin. This committee is hard at work and has already issued invitations to stakeholders and elected representatives of the people to make their contribution towards amending the interim constitution with the aim, of making your government more efficient in its actions in responding swiftly to the many challenges affecting our struggle. The interim government, while assuring the public and reasserting the sacrosanct spirit of openness and inclusiveness, urges the signatories to the said document to humbly join the Constitutional Reform Committee for the upcoming ASSC conference, again in Berlin, Germany, should they be really serious about moving our struggle forward and not just seeking self-projection and or promotion of a particular group's interests. Now, on the subject of taking the war across the MUNGO, fellow Amazonians, the interim government says no. It is a bad idea. It is bad for us, and it is irresponsible. The idea is senseless. It is reckless and insensitive. We see an alliance, an agreement between advocates of this policy and French Cameroon, and the whole thing, it seems, has been conceived to render support and advantage, not pain, to French Cameroon in a war they know we are winning big. If French Cameroon isn't involved in this idea, and if the idea is so good and such a smart one as they want you to believe, why does it have to be taken to the airwaves? What is the rationale for it being made public? Or is it just another posturing and grandstanding? The type that we saw in Daddy a year ago? Does anyone who considers himself a smart strategist carry out or carry such to the public airwaves? If you think it's a good idea, shouldn't you just engage in it silently? Why must you announce it? Amazonians, we want to make it unambiguously clear that that thing is a trap, and it is meant to kill this struggle as we know it. And I will explain. If this thing isn't a trap that is being crafted in alliance with French Cameroon, show me where else, or any action that they have carried out in their homeland against French Cameroon in the recent past, and I will tell you how serious they are. Since this war started, they have never for once nurtured the courage to engage the enemy within our territory. And they want you to believe taking the war across the MUNGO is where they can fight. From the MUNGO up to Donga Mantung, ladies and gentlemen, we have a vast territory. Ambazonia has a vast territory still to be defended. And we thought that is exactly what block by block meant. How many blocks have they occupied to even think of going across the MUNGO? And by the way, which blocks are they going across the MUNGO to occupy? Ambazonians, we do not lay claims to any inch of territory in French Cameroon. We are in this war to fight and to defend the territory we have, and not an inch of French Cameroon territory. And that's the reason why our cause is a just one. That's the reason why we are seeing all the international outrage against French Cameroon invasion of our country. When this war started, we recall the many efforts made by French Cameroon authorities to placate the international community to labeling our restoration forces as terrorists. We were all witnesses to that. We saw their desperation to have us called terrorists. To French Cameroon, Ambazonia was or is part of their country. And those who had taken up guns to defend themselves in our country were bridging the peace and accord of the one and indivisible country, end of quote. They were considered enemies of a united country. And again, in their minds, in French Cameroon's minds, they were domestic terrorists who were considered domestic terrorists. However, the international community has since refused to address our restoration fighters as terrorists. The world refers to them as nationalists and as freedom fighters. But trust our judgment. The day our fighters make the mistake of trespassing across the MUNGO for any reason, they shall be labeled terrorists. At this moment, when we see signs of hope, signs of victory, we are not ready to risk the gains we have attained. Yes, French Cameroon soldiers have had to plan every one of their assaults against our people from the safety and tranquil of their own territory. And yes, they are killing our people and burning down our homes and villages and retreating safely back into La République du Cameroon, and then returning again and again to kill our people. They are making the impact of the war to be felt more and more on our side by our people than on their side and on their people. That is true. And I should also add that it is our infrastructure that is being destroyed by the day as the war lasts. These are some of the arguments for the urge to want to take the war across the MUNGO. We will love to see their own towns and villages decimated too. We will also love to see their cities, towns, and villages locked down occasionally, as ours do. We will love to see their businesses paralyzed in that country, as in Ambazonia. We will indeed like to see them counting their dead bodies every day as we do ours. We would like to see their roads shut down as ours do. We will love to see their hospitals treating the injured and their mortuaries full of their dead as ours are. And you can go on and on and on and name more of these things. But let me tell you, as logical as it may sound, none of those moves will give us our country back. Absolutely not. There is a case of wisdom, advantages, and diplomatic gains to be made prosecuting the war from our own territory than on their own territory. Number one, let's not forget the justness of our cause. We did not and have not and will not wage war. The moment you cross the MUNGO and wage war, you are no longer the victim. You become the aggressor. Right now, La Republic is the aggressor. Waging war across the MUNGO will produce a rifle effect. The ring of maquisards will return, crossing over the MUNGO and martyrs them in Santa to kill our people before rushing back into their territory. If that scenario is provoked and it begins to happen, ours will no longer be considered a war of independence. The world will look at it from the point of view of a civil war in Cameroon. And La République du Cameroon would have been given the latitude to crush our people, both sides of the MUNGO, whatever way it wants, in effort to bring the civil war to an end. Ladies and gentlemen, you will never again hear the word open and inclusive dialogue, because once it is interpreted as civil war, civil wars don't end with negotiations or treaties. They are simply crushed. Any attempt at crossing over the MUNGO is playing into the game plan of French Cameroon. Ambazonians must vehemently reject the idea and reject the people promoting it. In this war for our independence, we lay no claims at all to even an inch of territory that belongs to French Cameroon. We lay no claim to any territory that doesn't belong to us. And let's get this one also right. In this war, we are not contenders, as some ignorant people would like you to believe. There is nothing like contending. We are not contending with anybody for anything. We are simply taking back what belongs to us. People that want to contend, they can keep on contending. That isn't in the IG's vocabulary. And we care less what political leadership takes over from Paul Biya in Yaoundé. Any socio-political change in French Cameroon means absolutely nothing. I mean nothing to us and our quest for a free Ambazonia. This interim government, therefore, fiercely condemns and distances itself from any person or group wanting to distract the struggle by some plans to attack inside French Cameroon territory. The interim government and the restoration forces will stay within our international boundaries to prosecute the war to the fullest. To all restoration forces, we ask you to stay clear from any attempts by groups we have previously banned from luring you into any unnecessary expeditions in French Cameroon territory. We have no stakes in their country, and every Amber force should join the interim government not only to condemn the plan, but stay far away from people leading that charge. Any soldier killed fighting in French Cameroon soil or territory cannot be called a hero. He is a terrorist. To all Ambazonians, the interim government calls upon you to let your voice be heard in this matter. Rise up, resist it, challenge it, and denounce it. Instead of crossing over, let's all break the economic interests that is left of French Cameroon in our territory. If MTN, for example, will not restore network in our towns and villages, every investment of theirs must be crippled. No timber, oil, rubber, bananas, tea, and you name the rest should be allowed to leave Ambazonia to French Cameroon. Colonial governors, SDOs and DOs, plus the so-called government delegates should not have anywhere to operate in our territory. Brasseries and UCB drinks should be banned, or let me put it this way, they are banned from circulating or doing business in Ambazonia. No Ambazonian business should pay any taxes to the French Cameroon government. Thanks for listening today, and good evening.